Yes, of course. Yeah, please do.
No, man. No worries. Can we ask her? Please move. You've got the we absolutely
Umbrella.
This it's going to be a bit tricky because there's a lot of noise, so I'm not going to be able to end a long way away.
might have to yell your questions.
Yeah, you're going to have to be loud, guys, so fire away. I think this is a really significant day for the North. It's a vital transport link between Auckland and the Northland region. There's still more work to do on the road, obviously, but this is a really significant milestone and one definitely worth celebrating. I think it shows how many people have been working on the project and how many people have an interest in the project. You know, this is one of the biggest roading projects we've seen in recent times, and you know, a lot of people, thousands of people have worked on it, and of course thousands of people stand to benefit from it. I think we were wrong to call it the holiday highway. I don't think the criticism that all of the funding was being directed into roads of national significance and away from maintenance and away from local roads was wrong. I think that was the criticism was still valid, and we still see the long-term effects of that now in the number of potholes we've got in our roads and the maintenance that just wasn't done during that period when all the funding was being diverted to roads of national significance. The reality is we need to do both. We need to invest in new roads, but we've also got to make sure we're maintaining the existing roads that we've got.
There's obviously quite a lot of challenges and delays with the creation of this road. So how significant is today to finally get this road reopened?
Oh, it's going to be a great thing for the community. We've seen earlier in the year how vulnerable some of our roading network is, including in this part of the country. I drove through from Auckland to Whangarei several times in the earlier part of this year, and the roads were regularly being disrupted by flooding and so on. So this is a really significant step in the right direction in terms of getting a more resilient, a more reliable and a safer road network up here. We've still got more work to do. This is the next step, but there are many more steps still to come.
Will eyes quickly turn to make different Derwins more future-proof and stable for weather events? I mean, we've spent a lot of money getting this road to where we are today, but should it have gone further and up to Whangarei?
I think those conversations are already underway now. So the next section of the road, you know, planning and consenting work is well advanced for that. And then we've just got to continue to make sure we maintain progress.
Is your government committed to the next section of the road?
Yes, we are. In terms of timing, though, there's further decisions obviously still to be made around that timing and funding, further decisions still to be made around that. But we certainly acknowledge the vital importance of this section of road. Linking Auckland, the Auckland region, to the Northland region, this is the main lifeline, this is the main highway. We need to make sure that we're investing in it.
Waka Kotahi's indicated that there's unlikely to be a start on the next section this decade. Would you like to see work start before then?
We're obviously working through the transport funding priorities with them at the moment. It happens in regular instalments, and we're in discussions about the next instalment with them at the moment.
Should National have opened the road today, given that they started it and Labor criticised it?
And we funded it. So, I think there's lots of people who will be wanting to claim credit for this. The fundamental question, the big important question is, let's get these projects moving. As I've indicated, we're working through the next set of roading projects, the next set of priorities, next set of funding priorities with Waka Kotahi at the moment. I think there has been a tendency to do a bit of either or, so either building new roads or maintaining existing roads. The view of our government is that you need to do both of those things. You can't say we're just going to focus all the energy on building new roads, but you also can't say that we're not going to focus on the roading improvements and we're just going to do road maintenance. You've got to do a combination of both.
I remember when you didn't have passing lanes past Whangarei.
Yeah.
Come on, sort of really
If you look at the investments that we've been making through the Provincial Growth Fund, for example, I think it is an indication that we know that the infrastructure up in this part of the country isn't what it needs to be, and we're willing to work with the local communities to do something about that.
Is your government committed to Otaki to live in? Are you going to proceed with that? Or is that possibly going to be put on ice?
No, we will be proceeding with that.
Prime Minister, if we just turn to Stuart Nash, was sacking Stuart Nash an overreaction?
No, I think it was the right thing to do. Obviously, the report that's released today doesn't deal with those particular issues. It was the specific brief of the Cabinet Office was to look wider and see whether there were any other issues that needed to be addressed. Clearly, people can form their own conclusions based on the report. But it's highlighted for me, I think, that there isn't any further action that's required.
Was this announcement delayed?
I think the Cabinet Office found that it was substantively managed, but that there were more steps that could have been taken, particularly around public perception. And I accept that, and I'm sure Stuart does as well.
Was this announcement delayed?
Yes, I believe he has been.
Was this announcement delayed to take Michael Wood's name off the opening plaque?
No.
It's just that Kiri Allan has suggested they was in exactly the same position with me being Prime Minister. Why?
No, that's not right.
No, that's an entirely different issue.
Kiri Allan held the same standard as Stuart Nash?
We have transparency around political donations for a reason, so that people can form judgments. Minister Allan was not involved in Meng Foon's appointment, and I think that any conflict there is being appropriately managed.
Do you feel like because, your colleague has been investigated, do you feel allegedly went on?
No, not at all. I think that all disclosures were made appropriately and it was dealt with at the time.
Yeah.
Prime Minister, does Stuart Nash need to suggest also manage one of those
As I've indicated, the Cabinet Office did indicate that the conflict was substantively managed in the sense that the appointment process was handled by another minister. The Cabinet Office found that he could have done more in terms of managing perception around that by, for example, not being involved in the announcement of that appointment. But he did not shepherd the appointment through. It was handled by another minister. I think Stuart is a really honest and decent person. And I think that all of his motivation was good. I think he clearly, didn't follow the rules as he should have in some areas, and he's paid a price for that. He's not a minister, and he's standing down at the election.
Are you tired of talking about ministers
Look, I deal with situations as they arise on a case-by-case basis. But look, as I said, I deal with things on a case-by-case basis. As I've said, I regard Stuart as an honest and decent person who's made some mistakes. Conflicts of interest, of course there are conflicts of interest are managed on a day-to-day basis. We're a small country. Ministers are going to have conflicts of interest. It's not a question of whether we have them. I think all of us at various points have conflicts of interest. It's how they're managed that's the fundamental question.
So were you aware that
What was that?
Were you aware that a small group of people had matches here?
Well, I mean, Stuart's got a wide range of relationships. All ministers do. So all ministers will have people that they talk to outside of the, outside of the political bubble. I don't necessarily see that as an unhealthy thing. Where it raises a conflict with their work, then it's important that that's appropriately managed, and we've got processes to do that. And as the Cabinet Office has found, by and large, those processes have been followed. And in one instance, there was an area where it could have been tidier, and then in another, it wasn't followed, and Stuart ultimately paid a price for that. We dealt with that at the time. There's nothing new on that today.
And Prime Minister, just a question on the NCEA. Is the government delaying the NCEA Level 1 changes?
We're in conversations with the sector all of the time. The NCEA Level 1 changes are still the right thing to do, and they do have broad sector support. That doesn't mean that every school teacher and every school principal in the country is going to agree with everything that's happening. But overall, there's still broad support for the NCEA Level 1 changes. Okay. It's a huge improvement. There's no question about it. I remember, when Transmission Gully was opened in Wellington, for example, I know what a difference that's made to my home region, and I think that this road's going to make a similar difference here. It's going to be transformational. It's going to make a real difference. It's going to reduce travel times. It's a much safer road. It's going to be a much more pleasant journey. There's still some ongoing discussions about that at the moment. Yeah. It's in excess of 800 million, but obviously the final kind of dotting of the I's and crossing of the T's is still underway. I'll invite the Minister to give you more details.
Yeah, so the original tranche was about 650 million. As a consequence of COVID, there's been some additional costs that the government has made, which has made it to just in excess of $800 million. But the final rounding out, we'll have further details on that once the full project's been done and dusted. No, I think that we're probably in the ballpark of around about in that late to $800 million mark. Yeah, in due course, not too long. I'm not allowed to give you a final details just because Waka Kotahi says that it does increase the chance of people coming up and causing some disruption. But I can say it's very, very soon.
Have they given you any kind of indication with the next couple of months?
Yeah, no. Very soon is days, not months.
The State Highway 25A, yes. The short answer is yes. Is that your area, 25A? It is within the allocation? Yeah.
So Section 25A, look, the discussions is that Waka Kotahi is very intent on focusing on finalising that project within the timeframes that they've set out. And so, look, that's a big focus for them, mid-2024. Well, early to mid. So, look, I know that there's been some projections that will go out to the end of August. Discussions that I'm having with Waka Kotahi at the moment have it still within that early to mid period of 2024.
All right, thanks very much, everybody. Go back into the dry. Excellent. Cheers.
Can we just get a quick photo of the left?
Yeah, let's do it.
So I'm Brett Glidden from Waka Kotahi. Fishing gully. Yeah.
People won't have to go through that. They won't have to sit there going up the road. What's the plan?
Yeah, it's fantastic. I've been on record saying once this road opens, we won't have to talk about Hill Street again because traffic will get to bypass it and use the Matakana Link Road, so it will make a huge difference to Warkworth. It's a very frustrating intersection and it has been for a number of years. We're pleased that we can finally bypass it. Well, it's got 5 legs to it, so it's very unique. But now when you don't have the through movement going through, the state highway traffic, you can actually run the intersection a lot more efficiently. So it'll be a lot easier to drive through going forward. Yeah. Oh, absolutely, and we've got south-facing ramps there so they can easily get on safely and head to Auckland and do the same in the return. People will forget, but before we built Northern Gateway, the previous section, that part of the road through Wairera was very dangerous. There were a number of fatalities, so the Pūhoi residents also don't have to use that road any longer. So it's a great outcome for people north of Auckland. Oh, I haven't got the number on my person at the moment, but there's been a lot in the last 10 years. Coming days. Oh, we just don't want people lining up waiting. It gets unsafe, especially at the southern end when we've got a motorway that's in full operation. We've got a few things we've got to tidy up and finish, so we're not quite there yet. But we just say to people this is going to be here for 100 years, plenty of time to drive it. You don't have to drive it on the first day.
So it's days, not weeks.
It's days.
Days.
Yep.
Had a lot of orange fibres out today. People have walked on the road.
Yeah. Oh, well, they're the reason it's here. Like, it's fantastic. The work that goes in, 8 million man-hours of work to deliver this road, it's fantastic for them to be able to come here and celebrate it with us. It's not just about the officials, it's actually about the people that have worked hard over 6 years to build this through really tough times with COVID and the likes and restrictions and how we built the road at that time. It's great they could come and celebrate it. I have, and it's fantastic. One of the best roads you'll see in New Zealand.
Final questions? All good? Thanks, guys.
Cool.
Nice job. My arm.